Hey, Kingdom Builders, today we've got a killer conversation with an artist who's flipping Christian music on its head. Coqui is in the house, and you don't want to miss this. Kingdom Builder TV starts right now. Hey everyone, I'm Mike Laxton and welcome to Kingdom Builder TV. Today we have a special guest, an artist who's blending indie rock, skate punk energy, and faith-driven messages in a way that's fresh, bold, and completely unique. You may know him from his breakout song, My Lord Provided, and now he's back with a brand new track, Only Idol. Please welcome to KBTV, Coqui.
What up?
I think I said it right?
Yeah, that was perfect. Nailed it.
Awesome. Yeah, I know it has that little bit of accent on there, but thank you so much for being on Kingdom Builder. I did get a chance to go to Rock the Universe. Didn't get to see you, unfortunately, but I heard that you had a new single coming out. Would love to have a conversation with you just to kind of have our audience get to know you a little bit and kind of go from there. So it's kind of stepping back into the name, Coqui. Can you just tell us a little bit about the name and what that meaning is behind it? Why that reflects your identity as an artist? We'd love to know.
Yeah, sure. So the name comes from the world's smallest frog. And these frogs primarily live in Puerto Rico, where my parents are from. Both my parents are Puerto Rican. And so when I started writing this music, obviously I had to come up with some kind of stage name, and I wanted something that connected me to my family, and also something that was a word that wasn't very familiar with most people. I wanted to kind of redefine it. And so this word was very familiar for me. It was actually the nickname of my mom growing up. So that's where it comes. In Puerto Rico, they pronounce it Coqui because there's an accent at the end. But I pronounce it Coqui. That's just how I've heard it my whole life.
Okay, and is that particular name, besides it being the frog, are you just mainly looking for the branding, the uniqueness of it? Is that kind of why it stood out for you?
Yeah, well, if you ever go to the island of Puerto Rico, this frog actually sings at night.
Oh, wow. Okay.
And the how it got its name is it makes a sound that sounds Coqui, Coqui, Coqui. So you'll hear this if you ever go to like Hawaii or Dominican Republic or any of the Caribbeans, you'll hear these frogs at night. It drives the locals crazy. But if you're not from there, it's pretty cool to hear in person.
Okay, I guess that makes sense. So, you sing, you make music, so do they. So I like that. It's a good analogy there. Now, what I love about your sound, your music, it's described as a fusion of skate punk, 60s psychedelia, 90s hip hop beats, a very unique mix that I think would cater to a different audience than what normal Christian music would be. What inspired you to kind of blend those styles, and how did that shape the way you write music?
These different styles and genres of music is just what I grew up loving. From probably like 12 years old, I started skateboarding. Picked up a skateboard, and it was, the first thing I really fell in love with. And from that, obviously, I started watching skate videos in the 90s and started discovering all this music from different skate videos. A lot of it was punk rock, alternative. And then a little bit later on was like underground hip hop and like 90s, like, gangster rap and stuff like that. And so that played a huge influence early on. It wasn't until like I turned maybe like 16, 17, I got interested in actually playing music. My dad was a DJ growing up. So I grew up around disco, house music, and then my parents are Puerto Rican. So of course I grew up listening to salsa music, right? And so that was, a bit of my first introduction to music was like all the stuff my dad was playing on his turntables, and then the music I was discovering from skate videos. And then once I started playing guitar, I got a guitar for like my 16th birthday. Then I got more curious into like rock music and other genres of rock music, and shortly discovered like the Smashing Pumpkins and Radiohead and Nirvana and stuff that was really coming out in the 90s, right? I inherited a CD collection from my older cousin Carissa. She was about 8 years older than me. She went away to college when I was like 16 or 17, and she left me her whole CD collection. So in this collection was everything from like 90s grunge, Cranberries, No Doubt, to like Dr. Dre and, 90s hip hop. And so that kind of shaped like my whole foundation for, the music I enjoyed listening to. Um, and then later, as I got older and I got more into playing, started bands and stuff, then I started discovering like the roots of rock, with, discovered the Beatles. I actually discovered the Beatles way later on. Beatles and Led Zeppelin and Pink Floyd and, all the stuff from like the 60s, 70s. I had already knew about a lot of 80s and 90s music, but the 60s and 70s was like mind blowing to me. And so, yeah, I just been a lover of all decades of music. I learned from my dad how to like analyze music and find the best qualities of it, because my dad was a DJ. So he was
Mhm.
always searching out music that was popular, music that got people moving, that got people excited. So that was always in the back of my mind whenever I was searching out my own music and kind of discovering my taste in music. So yeah, with this project, it's kind of just a combination of everything that I've been into my entire life. I wanted this project to be meaningful, and I wanted, for the first time in my life, I wanted to make music that I wanted to make, and not music that I felt like others would gravitate towards or be popular, that type of stuff. I just wanted to make the music that I wanted to hear, and so that this is kind of the outcome of that.
So it sounds like you definitely have that eclectic mix of sounds, which is great. I love, I mean, all the bands you mentioned. I grew up with a lot of those. I'm mainly a
Uh,
'90s child myself, so Smashing
yeah,
Pumpkins, Radiohead, no doubt. Yeah, those definitely resonate with me, and I think that's probably why I
nice.
gravitated toward that sound because I'm used to that. And I mean, I remember when I was little, growing up, laying in a papasan chair, which I'm not sure if you know what that is, but from the
No,
Philippines, a big kind of cushion, and my dad playing vinyl, and like from the
nice
'60s through the '80s at the time, because I was born in the '80s, and just everything you've said, I'm like, yeah, it's familiar, but you don't hear that nowadays. So I think that's a
for sure.
great sound that you've got going on there. Now you just released this new track, Only Idol. Um, Again, it has that sound that you mentioned, very eclectic, very different. What's kind of the story behind that, and what led you to write that track?
Yeah, so this song, when I wrote this song, I very much wanted to write a song that had Jesus's name in it. I had released about 5 or 6 songs this past year that kind of built the foundation of like my audience and fan base right now. And each song has its own meaning, and it's all goes, everything ties back into the Bible or scripture or whatever. But I wanted to make a song that distinctly mentioned Jesus
Hmm.
Christ, because I feel like in a lot of Christian music, you don't hear that often,
Hmm.
especially in like alternative rock music.
Hmm.
That's like seems to be like a big taboo. So my objective with this song was I wanted to write a song that was praising Jesus, but not in the traditional sense of like your contemporary worship music.
Hmm.
And obviously it's not a song to be played in church. It's not a worship song, but I wanted to take the praise element of traditional worship music and put it into an alternative rock song. So that was kind of the objective with this one.
Awesome. I definitely can hear that, and the title is a little bit different because you say Only Idol, and people think, oh, what does that mean? This
Yeah.
world idolizes so many things: fame, money, influence. What do you kind of hope listeners would take away from the message of the song?
Yeah. So I purposely titled it Only Idol because I wanted it to be a talking point.
Hmm.
You know, um, the lyrics when I say calling on Jesus, he's my only idol. I don't mean in the biblical sense or the biblical definition of idol. What I mean is in the modern sense of idol, someone to look up to and strive to be like. And I believe that Jesus is the only person that we should be striving to be exactly like. That's our whole mission. We'll never get to his level of perfection, but we can at least try. And so that was kind of the idea behind that lyric. And it's funny because I've seen a lot of comments of people on TikTok or Instagram trying to catch me like, like that's wrong. Like you're not supposed to idolize. And it's like, yeah, if you take the lyric for the definition, the biblical definition, yeah, of course you're not supposed to idolize anything. But what, the idea is the modern, definition of idol, which is, yeah, like I
Yeah,
just said. So
it goes back to like that fame, the music,
yeah,
just kind of we're just mentioning there. Christian music, as you mentioned, it usually follows a specific format, but you're definitely pushing boundaries with the sound. I know you mentioned obviously people trying to catch you and not saying the right thing. What other challenges have you faced in being an artist who doesn't typically fit that Christian mold?
I think like the biggest one is just the industry just doesn't really know what to do with me yet. Right. Definitely have found some hurdles in radio, in PR, in playlisting. Because my music, fits in the Christian category, but it's by no means traditional or
Mhm.
similar to what has been, I guess, successful in the Christian music industry. And so I'm, finding a lot of pushback, a lot of support, a lot of people loving the music, but not sure if it fits their platform or their station or, you know, their lane. And so, which is to be expected, you know, I plan to just create my own lane.
Mhm.
That's what I want to do. I don't want to change my music or shift it to fit some kind of mold. The whole reason why I started making this music was because when I came back to my faith in Christ, I couldn't find any music that I could relate to.
Mhm.
A lot of the Christian music that I was finding seemed kind of either watered down lyrically or musically just not my taste. And so I decided, why don't I just make my own?
No, and I agree. That's kind of evolving the Christian music scene, and there's a lot of different versions of that. Like I'm a big fan of Christian hip hop, for example. That's
Hmm.
compared to Christian music, contemporary Christian music, that's still a relatively new genre. So now you
Yeah,
have,
totally.
honestly, you're the first person I've heard of that got the type of mix that you have, but it's still relevant today because there are so many kids I see, because I'm passionate about youth as well. They're wearing Pink Floyd, all these. There's like, have you listened to their music? 90% of them, yeah, they've listened to this music. They're familiar with it. So now you have a Christian version that's gonna resonate with them. So it'll bring them, they're gonna tune in. They're like, oh, what is this? It's like, oh wow, he's talking about
Absolutely.
Jesus. I'm like, wait a minute. So that definitely is
Yes.
is a, is a untapped market for sure. And I think it's a great time to be in that platform, especially with online streaming. I mean, you've got Spotify, for example, that I love using the playlist function because it'll just throw random songs in there. And I'm like, oh, who is this? That's how we discover new artists is nowadays is through the streaming. So I
Yeah.
think doing that is great. And of course, as I mentioned earlier, you were at Rock the Universe, so you got a new audience there. They're like, oh, who's Coqui? It's like, oh, this music is different. I'm like, okay, I can rock with this. So I definitely think what you're
Right
doing is
on.
awesome. It's great.
Thank you.
Now, how has that? I know you kind of touched on it a little bit as far as coming back to your faith. How does your musical journey or your faith journey shaped your relationship with God? Was there kind of a moment in that career where you felt His presence was guiding you?
Yeah, I mean, there was definitely a moment where I've been doing music for a long time, right? I've been in many different projects. Had a bit of success before COVID with another older band, but I wasn't living for the Lord. I was very much in the world, and when COVID happened, I had kind of a breaking point where the whole world had shut down. It was the first time that I had slowed down and was forced to kind of analyze what I was doing with my life. And in that moment, I actually gave up music for about a year. I had realized that the reason why I was making music and pursuing success and fame and all these things was all out of ego and vanity. And when I decided to give my life to Christ, I no longer wanted any of that.
Hmm.
It wasn't appealing to me, and it felt almost like a waste of time. Like why do this? Like I should be focusing on like studying the Bible and getting closer to God and turning my life around. And so I spent an entire year, no music. I didn't listen to music. All the artists that I loved, I couldn't stand them anymore. I was
Hmm.
repulsed by the lyrics. And so, yeah, I took a year off, and a year of not making music and kind of putting my focus on God. I slowly started coming back to wanting to just play and write, with a completely different mindset. And the first song I wrote was Ven Conmigo. It
Hmm.
was, I had sat down, and around this time I started, like I said earlier, I was looking for Christian music because I had stopped listening to all the secular music I was into, and I was trying to find some Christian music that that I could connect to. And when I was in high school, I was really into like Tooth and Nail, and there was a
Hmm.
lot of like cool Christian bands that were blowing up at the time. Me Without You was one of my favorite
Hmm. Yeah.
Christian bands, and so I thought for sure I would find something, some new bands, some new record label like a Tooth and Nail or whatever.
Hmm.
And I started searching around. I couldn't really find anything. And again, that's what kind of caused me to start making my own. So I
Hmm.
started listening to the music that really made me fall in love with playing guitar, and the music that made me fall in love with wanting to create music in the first place, which was all the stuff I was listening to in middle school and high school.
Hmm.
Uh, that kind of sparked this new inspiration, and I started writing on guitar again for like the first time in years. And then once it came down to actually writing lyrics, the only thing I wanted to write about were these things that had been on my mind, and the
Hmm.
conversations I was having was about the Bible, about God, about this state of our society, what was going
Hmm.
on in politics, and just kind of like my eyes opening up to the reality and truth of this world, and a lot of the lies we've been told in this world.
Hmm.
And so that's kind of what sparked me making this music. And I told myself, and I made a promise to God that I would never make music out of my own vanity or ego ever again. That I would only make music that would please Him, because this um, skill set that I have to make music is only because God allows it, right?
Hmm.
It's a talent that God's given me, and I want to be able to use that to give back and spread the word. So that's pretty much
It's
in
awesome.
a
It's
nutshell. Yeah.
right. And I know you kind of touched on this because I believe you're with Dream Records. I know that they've had some amazing artists on the label there. What has it been like kind of looking at them to partner with them, and how's that impacted your ministry? Just because I know that they're doing some good work in that area.
Yeah, so the first year of me releasing this music, I did everything independently, and I only marketed my music through TikTok and Instagram. And through the grace of God, my music went viral, and the videos went viral, and it really took off quickly. Um, During the same time, I had just taken on a job working for Blink 182. So I
Oh wow.
do what's called playback, and I go on tour with the band, and I run all their backing tracks. Um, and so I had just taken on this job, and I started right as I started releasing music as Coqui. And so the end of this first year with them, I saw some success with the songs, found my audience, um, quickly was getting offers from different labels and management and distribution and stuff like that. And so going into the second year, since I had known I was going to be so busy touring with Blink 182, I decided let's try a different route and release this next year of music with Dream. They had
Hmm.
reached out to me, and they reached out with a very favorable deal. And
Hmm.
so yeah, it was just kind of like, okay, let's take this next year and see what they can do with this music. Let's see how they can reach people in a way that maybe TikTok and Instagram um, hadn't yet. And so yeah, so we released. So far, we released 4 songs with them.
Hmm.
We did a radio campaign for one of my songs called "My Lord Provided."
Hmm.
And they've been wonderful. They've been incredible. They've got me on big playlists through Spotify, Apple Music, obviously some bigger publications and stuff. And so definitely had given us a wider reach, and more eyes on the music than just on TikTok and Instagram. And social media is constantly changing. The
Right.
algorithm is constantly changing, and so it's hard to predict, how well your reels are going to do or how well your posts are going to do. And so, trying them out for a year, releasing this new music, ended up working out really well for us. So it's been great. It's been a good partnership so far.
Awesome. Well, that's good to hear, and they've been good to showcase some of their artists with us, and we've been. I mean, again, there's so much great music out there. It's nice to hear something kind of new and refreshing that's different. So again, appreciate you for that because it's I think it's a much needed genre of Christian music that needs to be out there. So let's have a little bit of fun, just kind of diving into you personally there a little bit. If you had one song, well, what would be one song outside of your own that has been life changing
Oh,
for you? It doesn't have to be Christian, anything that's kind of shaped you. If there was one song you could pick, what would it be?
it doesn't have to be Christian.
Doesn't have to be Christian.
um, uh, Idiotech by Radiohead.
Okay.
That
Any-
song is just the craziest production. At the time I discovered that song, I was so into alternative rock
Mhm.
and like guitar driven music. And hearing a band like Radiohead, who is very guitar driven, alternative rock, come out with an entire record that's completely electronic and kind of just flipped on it, flipped their sound. Um, it kind of blew my mind. It made me realize like, oh, you don't have to just stick to one genre or one
Mhm.
sound your entire career. Like you can experiment with other sounds and still be you.
Mhm.
And a lot of times when I'm working on something and I'm trying to break out of the mold of what the genre is supposed to sound like, a lot of times I'll refer to Radiohead, especially that record, Kid A.
Mhm.
I'll listen to that, and because that record for at the time was just like ahead of its time. It was
Mhm.
crazy production. And so I always listen to that record. It kind of, not lyrically, but just musically,
Right.
to hear the different production elements and recording techniques. Because that record to me is a masterpiece. And not everyone likes Radiohead.
No, of course,
My
but
my wife, she can't stand Radiohead. I put on Radiohead and she's like, "What is this? This is like music for like computer nerds or something." And she like doesn't get it.
but you know what? It drives who you are, the creative mind that you have, which is great, and then it'll help helps add that, and you can again you can connect with that and drive your creativity that way. So, if you could build a dream festival lineup with five artists, dead or alive, who would that be on that list?
Oh, a dream festival, 5 artists.
Yes.
Oh man, that's tough, dude. You put me on the spot. Um, wow. There's too many to pick. That's hard. That's hard.
Or just the top five that come to
Um,
your mind at first. There you go.
Top five. Okay. Well, OG Nirvana
Okay.
for sure.
Yep.
Let's see, Led Zeppelin.
Mm.
Uh, even that's a controversial one because Led Zeppelin's into a lot of. I later discovered they were into a lot of like black magic and
Yeah.
weird witchcraft stuff. So, but musically, I like the guitars
Hmm.
and voice. Um, oh man, this is tough. There's too many artists. I'm trying to think like who's. Oh, you said dead or alive.
Dead or alive. It doesn't have to. Yeah. Either
Dead
way.
or alive. Okay.
That might make it more difficult, but
Okay. I think Radiohead for sure
Hmm.
would be on that, but they would have to play. They couldn't play anything past In Rainbows because
Okay.
I feel like they just went off the deep end after
So the
that.
old stuff, basically, the original, like
Yeah,
earlier on.
yeah, anything from like 2005
Yeah.
and before. Um, Portishead,
Okay.
Portishead, absolutely. What is that?
I think one
Nirvana,
more.
Led Zeppelin, Radiohead, Portishead. And last but not least, let's see. Um, oh man, this one's tough.
I mean, we can stick with four. I mean, that's still going to be a pretty amazing
I'm
show.
trying
Either
to
way, I was
think.
going to say that's a pretty good lineup
Oh,
right there.
The
Yeah,
Beatles.
okay, you know what? There you go.
Yeah,
I like
that
that. I
would
can.
be
Along that note, and that's probably gonna be a hard one too. If you could collaborate with any legendary artist from the past, who would it be and why?
from the past. Um, Honestly, Portishead.
Okay.
Portishead. They're they're another group that's been mega influential on me. And first time I ever heard them, which was I think freshman year in high school,
Hmm.
it just absolutely like rocked my world. Like the I didn't know that you could make those kind of sounds. Like their production is just so out of this world, and that band is was a major influence on my song "Ben Conmigo" for sure. Like the kind of hip hop breakbeat, with like electronic production, and yeah, I don't know, that would be really cool to collaborate with them. And I know the singer Beth Gibbons, I believe
Hmm.
is her name. She wrote a lot of lyrics that were taken from biblical scripture,
Oh wow.
which I
Okay.
think is really cool. Even though they weren't quote unquote like a Christian
Mhm.
band, she wrote a lot taking from the Bible, and I thought that was pretty cool.
Definitely looking forward to what you have here for the future. I know at the time that people are watching this, you had just released the music video for Charlie. Only Idol music video is also there as well. We'll have links in the
Hmm.
description. But other than those two videos, and of course the songs, what's next for Coqui? Any upcoming projects, collaborations, or any
Oh
performances
yeah.
that we can talk about?
Yeah, so tons of new music. We've got two more songs coming out with Dream. A bunch of collabs coming out in the summer, stuff that still in the works. And then we're playing a live festival in
Hmm.
Ohio,
Oh, awesome.
July 18th. So yeah, lots of stuff happening.
Awesome. Well, we're excited about that. And just to kind of wrap it up a little bit, some final thoughts. If you had one message you want people to walk away with after listening to your music or even Only Idol in particular, what would that be?
Read the Bible.
Ah,
Read the Bible as much as you can.
absolutely. Awesome. Get into that word daily, at least daily, if anything, and definitely a
Absolutely.
good, strong word. So, Koki, again, thank you so much for sharing your story, your heart, your music with us. And for those watching and listening, if you haven't already, go stream Only Idol right now. Link will be in the description. Follow Koki on all the platforms. Actually, that is one thing I was going to ask. Where can people find you on social media?
I am Coqui.
Okay,
IAMCOQUI. I am
perfect.
Coqui.
And then we're going to have that, of course, also in the description there. But thank you
Cool.
so much for joining us. We loved having you here on Kingdom Builder TV, and hopefully we get to have you on again soon.
Absolutely.
If you enjoyed this conversation, make sure you like, share, and comment below of your favorite part. And as always, if you haven't already, subscribe to the channel and ring that bell so you never miss an update. Until next time, keep building the kingdom. And this is Mike Laxton reminding you to put Christ first in your lives, and everything else will fall into place.